And now I am super excited to get right to our very next speaker. This guy and I go way back. I love him to death. Great friend. Todd Bookspan. He is the author of Win by Nude. I want to read his bio. These guys always, like me, don't love bios being read, but for a professional event, I really want to tell you who you're listening to, because not everybody always knows. So number one, Todd has 25 years of experience as an entrepreneur and a business leader. And for the past 15 years as a mortgage originator, Todd has proven successful in cultivating both teams and branch offices. Working alongside his wife, Tara, Todd successfully helped grow the Arizona region of a mortgage bank from 5 to 85 employees and 4 branches. Now he has designed the Win by Noon Planner as a tool to help increase productivity. He is an executive coach. So with this, Todd Bookspan, my good friend. Hello,
well,
Todd.
Welcome. That was so nice. I don't know about you all, but yeah, I think those kind of bios are really boring, but thank you for reading it.
Mine's so long, it's crazy, Todd. So I don't even want anyone to read it. Now it's given away.
Makes me feel good. And, but I think really ultimately what matters is the 25 years in the mortgage chair. And really the fact is that I practice what I preach, right? I believe if I'm going to ask loan officers to do something, I've either done it myself before or I've done it myself recently. And so, the example that I would give of that is, I challenged my community last month to make 100 realtor calls in a day, not just one day, but 3 weeks in a row. And then I dialed alongside of everyone. Actually, I was in Zoom just like this. I was unmuted. I had all these people in calling with me, and they were all, I could see them all moving their mouths. So they were all on mute, but if they wanted to pause and listen to me making calls to realtors, they could do it. And so for me, I just believe in a couple of things. Number one, I think keeping it simple, right? I think it's really important that you don't overthink it. I loved what Ryan and Jessica just walked you all through, because they did a great job of sort of setting up the conversation that I want to have with you. And, really it's the experience that I've had myself. It's from when I was a coach, now really I just do group coaching. I let smart people like Christine and her organization do all the one-on-one coaching with you all. That's not my jam these days. And I really just believe in helping people thrive in whatever market they're in. I've interviewed over 500 loan officers in the last 6 years since I founded the Productivity Mastermind group on Facebook with Dave Savage, who I know is speaking later today. I've interviewed over 300 realtors. I used to have a radio show and do a podcast with realtors still. And I just take that information, and my job is really to help drill down into what I can take away from these really smart people and help you all grow. And really, Ryan and Jessica set me up. At the end, they talked about, well, you've got to schedule time for all of this. And, we didn't get into life thinking we were going to be mortgage loan officers. And so, kind of as I get ready to rock and roll real quick, there's over 160 of you on here. Just throw in chat a couple things you guys need to know. Number one is there's a reaction button at the bottom of your thing. That's a little smiley face. You should be giving some reactions for Ryan and Jessica and what a great job they did. So you guys should be learning to use that in Zooms, because it makes those of us here who all crave admiration, makes us all feel good. And then throw in Zoom for me real quick how long you've been in the business, because that'll help me as I kind of build out the stories that I'm going to tell. Because ultimately what my goal is to drive you right. 33 years, 3 days. All right, Dusty, welcome to the world's greatest business. I mean, whoever your boss is who told you to get in here after being in the 3 days, you should give that person a big hug. All right, another new 11 years. All right, so we're all over the place. Love it. All right, so keep going. I'm out in Arizona. It's going to be beautiful today, 72 degrees. I don't want you where it's snowing to feel, to feel jealous. But the bottom line is this, is the story that I'm going to talk about and where I'm going to take you guys in the next 26 minutes before the amazing Sydney Erdman gets on and shares with y'all is really what to do. I mean, it's the challenge is we all get stuck. We all overthink it. And we all really kind of run in that definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over again and expecting a different result. And I was no different, right? I actually struggled in my mortgage career. And, a lot of times, I mean, we just interviewed a $250 million producer, and he said for the first 15 years, he felt like he repeated his first year over 15 times. And so my goal is for those of you who've been in that are 3 days in, and then I saw 33 years, maybe there's a couple people been longer. Some people put like the year they started, and my brain's not going to do math that quick to know if you've been in for longer than 33 years. But either way, that's a really wide range. And I would tell you this, if for the newer folks, and every year that you've been in this business, you probably feel like you've been in that whole, Truman Show where you're actually just stuck in the same day over and over again. And my goal is to kind of shake you out of that. And so I'm going to tell a little story, right? This is a basketball. Now, this is a Phoenix Suns basketball. I don't know Matt Ishbia yet, but he and I are going to become friends soon now that he owns my favorite basketball team. But ultimately, I want to tell you guys a story. So who here knows who Wilt Chamberlain is? So, some of you might. All right, I see a couple hands up of people in here. So Wilt the Stilt Chamberlain is considered to be he's a Hall of Fame basketball player. Now, he's known for some other things off the basketball court, and I'm not going to discuss those here today, but you can Google that if you're interested. But ultimately, what I want to talk about is the other thing that he is known for. He is known for being the only NBA player to ever score 100 points in a game. Shooting this little basketball into a hoop. And let me kind of walk you through what he did to score 100 points and what made that really different. And then ultimately why it matters to you that I'm going to tell this story and take your valuable time. But back on March 2nd, 1962, he played for a team that was called the Philadelphia Warriors. Now the Philadelphia Sixers, my second favorite basketball team. And they were playing the New York Knicks, and they were playing, basketball is a little different then. It wasn't like these huge arenas, but they were still playing in the arena. And there was definitely a vibe, a magic vibe going on. I mean, seemed like a really big night. And Wilt was 7 feet 1 inches tall. And, if you've watched basketball at all, you know that person who's really tall, they can literally most of the time just stand underneath the hoop, and they can literally just slam the ball in and score whenever they want. And Wilt Chamberlain was pretty similar to a lot of other 7-foot free throw shooters that we've seen out in the game. And he shot less than 50%. So, what happens is that if you're a pro, right? So let's sort of talk about this. They talked about practicing your videos beforehand, right? So, as a basketball player, you're going to have to practice, right? You're going to get to the line for that. They call it the charity stripe because you get fouled and you get to shoot 1 or 2 free shots, now even sometimes 3 free shots. And if you've practiced those enough, you're going to get that every time. So, even if you're fouled in a shot that you weren't going to make, you still might get the chance to make those 2 points. And the problem was that Wilt Chamberlain was a career 48% free throw shooter prior to this game, which meant really, if he got 2 shots, he was only going to make 1 of them. And it's kind of like Shaquille O'Neal. If you've got more recent, like they called it hack-a-shack. If you were playing against Shaquille O'Neal and it was coming down to the last few minutes of the game, if Shaq stood under the basket, he was going to slam the ball and it was going to go in. And if you wanted to get Shaq out of the game because he's, super huge, 300 whatever pound guy imposing in the lane, blocking shots, making shots at the other. And all you start doing is they just called it hack-a-shack. He'd put in a player off the bench and just start hacking Shaq. He'd go to the line. He was the same thing. He might make 0 out of 2. He might make 1 out of 2 if he was lucky. He just didn't make very many free throw shots. So eventually the coach had to pull him out, and then you had to put a shorter guy in and it was going to be better off. And so that was sort of the same thing with Wilt Chamberlain. But what happened on March 2nd, 1962 was pretty magical. He actually got fouled and went to the line to shoot 32 free throw shots. I mean, that's a lot, right? That's more than most teams go to in any given game. And that night he shot 87.5% from the free throw line. He actually made 28 of his 32 shots. And again, if you think about this, there's the Shaq. We know he was a bad free throw shooter, but if you think of someone like LeBron James actually, he misses about 150 free throws a year. So, but he's still a 90+% free throw shooter. So he's going to make 9 out of 10. And so what was magical about this night is it's the one and only night that someone scored 100 points in an NBA game. And if you think about it, is the fact that Wilt Chamberlain scored 80 or landed 87.5%. Right, that he was able to actually get that many free throw shots, right? 28 out of 32 is the difference maker. If he was shooting as normal, his career average was 51.1%. So he would have made 16 free throw shots. And we wouldn't be talking about him because he would have only had 88 points that night. It would have been an impressive game, one of the best ever, but it wouldn't be a 100-point game. And what was different that year? So free throw shooters, if you guys watch basketball, they shoot the ball like this, right? They shoot it above and it comes out of their hand. And there's only one other person who had one of the highest free throw scoring percentages. His name was Rick Barry, and you don't even know who Rick is, but Rick's a Hall of Famer, and he would typically miss 8 to 9 free throws a year. So think about that. LeBron James considered to be one of the best players ever. He misses 150. Rick Barry, who you may probably have never heard of, but he only missed 8 to 9 a year. And what the difference was is, I don't think you'd see here, but Rick shot what they call granny style. So he shot between his legs and threw up the ball like this. And the year that Wilt Chamberlain made 87.5% of his free throws and made 100 points, he shot the ball granny style. And he did it differently than everyone else did it. He thought differently and said, I'm going to do this different thing, and I'm going to see if I have a different level of success. And the ironic thing was that he had that great success, and his coach said, Will, if you can shoot like that from the free throw game free throw line every night. We will never lose a game. But here's what happened. The next year, 1963, guess how Wilt decided to shoot the ball? He decided to shoot the ball like this again. And he went back to being a crappy free throw shooter. And but he knew it worked, but he wasn't willing to think differently. And I feel like that is kind of where this mortgage industry is. The bottom line is we all know what we have to do to be successful. Wilt Chamberlain knew he could be the best basketball player if he just did something different. He shot it granny style, but he said he felt silly. He said he felt like it wasn't the right thing to do because everyone else shot the other way. And then I think that's what happens to us as loan officers, right? The reason it matters to you is because we all do that definition of insanity in reverse, right? I started off saying that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over again and expecting a different result. Well, the funny part was Wilt Chamberlain knew what to do. He did the reverse of it. He knew what to do and he knew he could get a better result and he chose not to do it. And I really want to challenge you all, right? That's where Ryan and Jessica left it for you. They said, you've got to figure out how to put this in your day. And what I find is that most of us got into the loan business to set our own schedule. And that is the exact reason we fail. Okay. And let me say that again, right? You got into the loan business to set your own schedule. And that is the exact reason you fail. Did any of you ever, so give me a little thumbs up in the reaction thing. Any of you ever work at like Starbucks or McDonald's or have a job before you got into the mortgage business, right? I titled this Job versus Career. And so I view the days when I worked at a bicycle store in the old days as a job. I had a job. I can't believe no one here. None of you really worked at Starbucks or McDonald's. Come on. I find that hard to believe in the loan business. And ultimately, when I worked at the bike shop, I had a schedule, right? I actually had to show up. There we go. All right. So we got some brave soul there who raised their hand. Thank you for that. But when you worked your job, whatever your job was beforehand, so maybe you were lucky enough to start off in some fancier job than working in a fast food restaurant. Mine was a bike shop. So, I had dirty fingernails. But when I got to the bike shop, if I got there to open, right, I would open on Saturdays. We opened at 9 o'clock. I had to be there at 8:45, right? That was the time I had to be there. I didn't even know we opened at 9. I had to show up at 8:45. I had to be ready for the day. I had to wheel the bikes out. I had to throw a lock through the bikes. Don't want to date myself, but we had a gumball machine. It actually had hot tamales in it. So it was actually like a step up from having a pure gumball machine. But we were next to a grocery store, and if you could get a kid to put a dime in the machine, that was a big deal. I don't think we actually got anything from it, but it still was cool. I had to put that out front. I had things I had to do if I was opening the bike shop. I also rode my bike there after school. If I got there at 4 o'clock, I had different activities that I was required, okay, not optional, I was required to do. And then when I closed, there was required activities, right? Had to wheel the bikes back in, set them up for the night. I had to lock the front door. I had to, bring in that hot tamale machine. I had to count out the cash register, right? See what we made for profits for the day. How often do you count the cash at the end of the day, right? Are you actually tracking your numbers? That's a whole different class. But ultimately I had to work a schedule. And what I tend to find is that loan officers that are successful, they work it as a career and they work a schedule. They hold themselves accountable. Okay. And that's the hard part, right? They hold themselves accountable to a schedule. They have a time that they get to the office every day. They have activities that they do every day. I don't know of a coaching program out there that doesn't actually track results, right? And so I'm assuming that you're all doing that in some way. There's a lot of coaching programs out there that also record the activities to get to the results, like how many phone calls or how many people I have to talk to or meet with in order to get a transaction. But I tend to find is that if you don't have just the basic organizational skills, Ryan and Jessica said they work 4 to 6 hours a day, right? So think about that for a sec. Who here wouldn't want to work 4 to 6 hours a day? And they said they've generated almost $1 million in revenue, right? That sounds pretty good to me, right? We get into this business, not just to set our own schedule, but also for financial freedom, which is great. But I care more about time freedom because when I hit financial freedom, that actually bought me time freedom. And then ironically, during COVID, it gave me location freedom, right? I hopped in an Airstream. My wife and I and daughter drove all around the country. We had a blast. We worked from the road, which was just a whole heck of a lot of fun. And ultimately, what I find is that when I talk to loan officers, because they don't have a schedule, and ultimately you're going to divide your schedule into 2 different things. The reason that you do this is because you have people around you that are doing these other things, right? You've got people that are shooting the ball like this instead of granny style. So again, I'm all about simplicity. If granny style is the best way for me to score a free throw, then I want to figure out what's the granny style of the mortgage business. How do I own my time? How do I become more productive? Because not only do I have to put in more lead calls, and more realtor prospect calls and more realtor calls and more update calls and more annual mortgage reviews, all those things that we know are super important. Now I got to put this social media thing in there, which personally, I'll tell you, I'm terrible at, but I can promise you this, I put it in my calendar for this year. I'm getting better at it, but I've actually created a plan for even my social media now to make sure that it gets done, because ultimately, Ryan said it, what gets scheduled, gets done. And I think that that's, really key. And so when I was doing loans back, again, for some of you, it's going to seem like a long time ago, because maybe you were just young kids back then. But 2013, 2014, 2015, my loan business was pretty successful. I was closing between 440 loans a year for those 3 years. It was about $80 million in Phoenix, Arizona, which, smaller loans. So we had to do, a lot of loans in order to get that number. And I had this vision. I was a $100 million loan officer. I had a great coach, and that coach helped me come up with this idea. But I just didn't quite get there. And, again, I had great numbers, right? I had great income. I had a great team. I had lots of great vacations. Life was pretty good, but I was sort of frustrated because I hit that ceiling of complexity and couldn't get there. And when I reviewed my year, because again, we're all here in January, it's not too late to review last year, and looked at it, what I realized was that I had an assistant, I had a business partner, I had a marketing manager who went out and developed business for me. And all these people scheduled for things for me when it was helpful to them, right? This is the time where I had the 4 branches and almost 100 employees. And so I had to meet with people and do things on their time. And I thought to myself, gosh, what if I did it on my time instead? What if I actually took back my morning? So I blocked my calendar from 8:30 to 11:30. And it was the only difference I made in my life in 2016. Interest rates flat. Sales for homes in Phoenix, Arizona, flat. No big new builder, no big new whale of a real estate agent referring me business. I just did the things that you all know, that I know I had to do every day and do it consistently. And I actually did it every day and consistently, because before I would come in the office, I would go hide out originally, and I would hide at a burrito place or at one of the 2 coffee shops or restaurants that were kitty corner to my office. And I would actually do those activities every day. And then at the end of 2016, I looked up, my business increased almost 45%. I closed 551 loans for almost $115 million. And I tell you that story because it's probably a difference that you can make, right? Ultimately, you guessed it, I won by noon. Everyone's like, well, wait, Todd, you only blocked your calendar till 11:30. But I can tell you that win by noon sounds way cooler than win by 11:30. And ultimately, it was that one difference that made it so that I was consistent. And so let's rewind and let's go back to what Ryan and Jessica said. And I think you're going to hear other things from all the other great speakers today about the things that are going to be important in your business. And the question will be is actually, can you get it done? Right? Can you actually put those things in there and make sure that every single day you're consistent with the most important things? And so I divide those up into 2 categories. And so these categories, you can sort of determine on your own how they filter into your life. But I would tell you that if you interviewed 100 loan officers that are doing, even 50 million or more a year, I would tell you that 99.9% of them are doing these things consistently in their business. And I would tell you that the people that are struggling to do 10 million are doing these things inconsistent. The people who are struggling to do 20 million are probably doing them pretty consistent, but not fully consistent. And then the more you can do these things consistently. So, the daily disciplines, it's not going to surprise you. You need to call leads every single day, right? I mean, there's books out there. I was just refreshing myself on the conversion code, right? So it was written by Chris Smith. It's a great book to read and do a book club with your realtors on. Chris used to work for a little mortgage company that back then was called Quicken Loans. He was their #1 loan officer. And his study showed that if you called a lead 6 times, you were over 90% likely to connect with them. MIT did a similar study. They said the same thing 6 times. Basically, between the two of them, it's between 91 and 94% likely to hit to get a hold of the lead. But my question is how often are you calling the lead 6 times? Like, I know for me, I was calling them once or twice, or the realtor would call and say, hey, Todd, have you gotten a hold of Christine? And I'll be like, oh yeah, I left her a voicemail. Well, let me call her right now. And then I would start chasing that lead down because I just wasn't systematized. I wasn't consistent in the things that I knew I needed to do every day in order to get there. But when I blocked my calendar every morning and before I reacted to everyone else, I actually made sure I got those most important things done. My business rose almost 45% in 1 year. So you got to call leads every day and have a committed lead schedule. The other thing I really realized that I spent 3 years as a coach. I coached CEO in the mortgage space. Mainly I coached loan officers who were looking to grow and scale a team like I did, who wanted to be able to get out of the day-to-day of the business and do something different. And then I mentored some of my CEO friends, kind of young, I call them young kids. I was more of a mentor to them. I was supposed to be their coach, but they needed some mentoring so that they wouldn't be taking loan applications, while their wife was giving birth in the labor room, in the delivery room. And so ultimately, in that coaching window that I had, when I was looking at these top producers, $100 million producers, $150, $200 million producers. When I looked at what's an opportunity for them, it was actually people who had applied for a loan. Now, we all think once we get the application that the person should be committed at that point to getting you all the stuff you need to issue that pre-qualification letter. But really, when I had those top producers focused, that actually one of their most important things was to be harassing that person to make sure that you get their pre-qualification letter out, fully pre-underwritten or whatever you call it in your organization to be reviewed, that they were obviously infinitely more likely to buy with you. And so again, those were the two daily disciplines that I determined would be best for me, and then coached all these top producers through it. And they really all confirmed what it was I'd done. So every day you should be calling leads. You should be calling applicants who you haven't converted and gotten that pre-qual letter out. Because we all know once they got that letter, then the realtor's going to drag their butt out there. They're going to get shopping pretty quick. And again, if I interviewed 175 of you that are on this call, I would guess that there's a very large percentage that do those things, but just don't do them every day and do them consistently. And I promise you, if you just do those two things, of all the things that you learned today, I know your business will grow this year. And then again, most coaching programs coach you. They might call it theme days. I call them target day activities, right? Pick a day of the week to do the specific things that you need to do. And I'll just work in, I won't work in reverse. Let me start with Monday. That's probably the easy way to do it. Monday for me is just a day where you're going to clear the decks. You're really just going to be getting yourself ready to launch into your week. So in theory, on Monday, you should have some realtors that maybe had an open house over the weekend. So you can check in with him or her and see if they had any leads for you. You might have had a realtor taking a client out looking at homes, right? So if you didn't hear from them over the weekend to call a listing agent, then maybe you should check in and see how that went. Make sure they don't have an offer that came in that you need to be launching. Hopefully you have an offer in your inbox, a written, executed contract that you can launch. Guess what? You should be calling your leads. You should be calling those pre-quals that haven't gotten you the stuff that they said, right? That person who told you they promised you they would find their tax returns and scan them to you over the weekend and you don't have them. Great. You're going to call them today to make sure that you harass them so that you can get them out shopping later that week. And then really just getting your week ready to go. Who canceled an appointment last week? Who do you want to make sure that you want to be intentional about getting in touch with this week? Tuesday, update calls. Again, update calls is something that so many coaching programs talk about, but so few loan officers do it consistently, right? Pick a day, because if you pick a day to do it, you're going to be more consistent because you told them you're going to do it. And then you look like you don't look very good if you don't actually do what you tell them you're going to do, right? I mean, we all know it, that the listing agent is your prime target because they have to talk to you. They want to talk to you. But how many of you are doing that every week and consistently? And if you're already doing that on a different day, great, do it on a different day. I like Tuesdays because there's a lot of Mondays that are holidays. And then everyone's like, oh, what do I say, right? You're just going to tell them, hey, this is your Tuesday update call. So it sounds different than every other call. And then all those things that Ryan and Jessica just talked about that you can, that you can update people on, you could update them there, but you won't. What you're going to do there is you're going to just talk about what's current status of their loan and then what's next in the process. Wednesday is pre-approved client day, right? Your clients are getting easily distracted on the internet. They actually believe, just like they believe that the Zestimate is accurate, they believe when they hit the button that says asking the listing agent a question, they believe that actually is asking the real listing agent a question. They don't realize their data is getting sold. So again, a good script to your clients, hey, don't hit that button on that website. They're selling your data. Your data is getting sold. Nobody wants their data sold. And then you're going to give them an update of all those things that Ryan and Jessica said you could put in your video topics, right? What's going on with loans, what's going on with interest rates, or you just say, hey, what's going on, right? That's it. You're just checking in with them. You're calling people who are going to buy within 30 days. You're calling them every week. If they're going to buy within 60 days, you're going to call them every other week. If they're going to buy within 90 days, you're going to call them, every 3 to 4 weeks. Because if you don't follow up with them, guess what? They won't follow up with you. You're going to lose them to someone else. Thursday, realtor update calls. Again, a realtor call days. You should be calling partners every Thursday. You could also call your financial advisor, CPAs and all that. But, we know the low hanging fruit, especially in this market, is your realtors. And it's amazing to me. I told you I did 300 realtor calls in the month of December on my own. And like I said, I did it literally live on Zoom so people could listen and watch. It is painful. It's terrible. In fact, I'm calling 50 a week right now just because I said I would keep doing it. And my question is I don't do loans and I'm making those calls. So why aren't you? And but ultimately, you're going to call realtors every Thursday. You're going to tell them what you learned from their clients on Wednesdays. You're going to be giving them the same updates that Ryan and Jessica talked about. What's going on in rates, what's going on in the financial markets. You're going to be telling them what's going on with the clients. You're going to be, and you're also going to ask them what's going on, because this is your weekend protection day. That's why I like Thursday as realtor call day, because it's a day to protect your weekend. Because they're going to say, hey, I'm taking Christine and her family out to show them a home. And if you don't have Christine and her family pre-qualified, then you actually have between today and all day Friday to track them down, so you don't get the 5 o'clock on Saturday call when you're walking into dinner or the movie with your family to do the pre-qual, right? They've known Christine's flying into town for a month, but they just forgot to tell you. So when you ask them that, they'll do it. They're doing an open house. Great. You can help prep them, or, you'll know you can stop by and, say hello or whatever that is. If they need a flyer, if your company allows that for compliance, great. All those things, but it's weekend protection. It's just a great day to call. And then lastly is Friday, which to me is annual mortgage review day. And you've got Dave Savage coming on. He'll talk about mortgage coach and total cost analysis and how amazing those things are. And so that's a great opportunity for you to make sure that you stay in touch with your clients. But really, here's the bottom line of all of it, right? My question for you is, are you willing to do things differently? Are you willing to work a schedule? Are you willing to be the person that's shooting the granny shot every day, especially if you're in an office, right? I always joke because our team works out here. They have 4 loan officers that run around. And the funny part is they're not here. They're all out doing something. 2 of them I know are actually at a real estate meeting, and one of them, who knows where he is. But the bottom line is they're not sitting here doing their work. If I was a brand new loan officer, I'd be sitting out there, I'd be doing my work every day. And the problem is that you're all going to be distracted, whether you're new or experienced working in an office or working at home, from doing what your most important things are today. And ultimately, I said, I believe in keeping things simple. I know that now that I've got thousands of people that use Win by Noon, or don't even use it, but just embody the philosophy of it, that you have this opportunity to have a great year, right? I don't really care. I mean, Barry Habib's going to get up here and he's going to wow us with what's going on in the market and how we're going to have a refinance opportunity later. Great. So then my question is, what are you doing now to be ready for that opportunity, right? Why not take Friday as your annual mortgage review day and make sure that you've got all the people you've done loans for in the last 6 months at high rates, and make sure that they know today, this week, call them. Hey, just checking in. Hey, just want to let you know I'm watching your loans, so that when rates drop, whenever Barry tells us they're going to drop, that you're ready to refinance them. Remind them of that now. Don't wait till rates drop to remind them, because then it's too late. Then everyone's already bugged them. And so my belief is this. My belief is that if you block your morning, I blocked mine for 3 hours, and the days where it took me 3 full hours to do those activities, those were amazing days, because that just told me I had a lot of business going on. I had a lot of update calls. I had a lot of clients that were pre-approved. I had a lot of realtors partners to talk to. But most days I didn't have to do that. And so the last thing that I'll say is you need to protect yourself. And so, the easy answer is just say no. But the bottom line is you have to say, I have a commitment at that time, because you do. You've got a commitment to yourself. You've got a commitment to your client. You've got a commitment to your family. You've got to be the best you can be. And so it's just really easy to say, gosh, I got a commitment at that time. Could I meet you at 2? Hey, I've got a commitment at that time. Are you available next Tuesday? And so just think about that little short script that helped me be really comfortable that year of telling people that. And then if you have a great opportunity, it's before noon in my time, and Christine said, hey, you want to be here and talk? I'm like, heck yeah, I'll be there. No holding back on that. You're never going to pass up a great opportunity. So if a great opportunity comes your way, take it. But an average opportunity is what's going to keep you from having your best year ever. And so I'm just going to encourage you all, don't treat this as a job, treat it as a career, right? Be Wilt Chamberlain shooting the granny shot. Don't be shooting the free throw this way. And the bottom line is, if you can work a schedule, right, whatever that schedule is, then you're going to have a great year. So appreciate you all. Thank you, Christine, for letting me be here. Oh, I did forget to tell you, I'm supposed to sell something. If you want a free trial to Win by Noon, just go to winbynoon.com, and then you type in a code that Adam gave me, which is WBN for Win by Noon 23. Or you can go to toddbookspan.me. It's my little link tree thing. That'd be my other secret thing. If you want an easy way to get people to whatever links you want them to go to, just create a link tree. It's free. Put your website address on there. Put a link to your application on there, put a link to your latest video that you just got a great idea from Ryan or Jessica. So that's what I got.
Thank you so much. It was awesome. Would you do me a favor and just chat? I put winbynoon.com, but I didn't catch the second one. I'm wearing lip gloss today too.
I got a lot of people. So people are asking me, what is Linktree? Just go to linktr.ee. You'll see it. It's just a free thing that you can use to send your clients to. So that's good. I'm going to hang around because I wouldn't miss Cindy for the world. So thank you all. And I'll throw my info here in the chat in just a sec.
That's so awesome. And I think I saw someone that had their hand up with a question, Naomi, but put it in the chat. And if Todd's here, no, you're good. Okay. You can come back. Guys, great job. Look at that 1 hour down. Todd, that was awesome. I love the Monday through Friday reminder for everybody. I don't know what it is about when you get specific with your task. We obviously teach that here at 2020 with prospect blocking in our 4x4 time frame, that when it's top of mind and you're focused on that task, you're going to have the best